kids, and welcome back to YuppMaster. Well, today we're going to be beginning with the whole chapter of cockroaches, and each and every point which you are going to be requiring to know for your NEET MCQs will be covered in these sessions of cockroach with us here with me at YuppMaster. Well, I'd like to tell you that every year one cockroach question appears in your NEET exam. So this chapter, just knowing a couple of terms which are there in this chapter and understanding the basic concept of the cockroach is going to bag you in 4 marks, and that is a lot. I know you all will agree with me at this point of time, right? So talking about the common cockroach, the Indian cockroach, it's called as Periplaneta Americana. This is a scientific name that you're going to have to remember, because most of the MCQs are not going to be writing cockroach on it. They will write only Periplaneta, and they are going to expect you to understand that they are talking about the cockroach. Well, many times many children ask me that, ma'am, why cockroach? Of all the animals around us, why cockroaches? Well, the only reason that I can give you is that cockroaches are found everywhere. Okay, just look around you, go to any country on this earth, go to any city in this town, everywhere you will see that cockroaches will be present. Okay, so I guess that is the basic reason why we're going to be studying about the cockroach. What is their body actually made up of, which is the reason why these animals are able to survive everywhere, whether it is the coldest climates or whether it is the warmest climates. You will always find a cockroach there. All right. So, shall we start with Periplaneta Americana? Okay. Well, in this lecture, we're going to be dealing all about the external features of the cockroach. All right. So, when we talk about Periplaneta Americana, it is a native of tropical America. Okay. Also, we see that now it is called as a cosmopolitan insect. All right. And where do these live? You will always find these hidden in the cracks or in the gaps between the walls. Okay, we see that the body is actually flattened, dorsally, ventrally flattened, and that's why you can see it poked inside the cracks in the walls. All right, so its flattened form of the body is enabling it to enter into small crevices, means small cracks in the floor of the or in the walls. Okay, now talking about the cockroach, there are 4 basic general features that all cockroaches are going to be showing. Okay, which are they? The first word I'd like to tell you is called as omnivorous. Now, you must have heard of a herbivore, you must have heard of a carnivore. Now I tell you something called as an omnivore. Omnivore is that animal which is able to eat everything. Okay, and when I say everything, I mean everything. Besides metal, plastic and glass, the cockroach can eat almost absolutely everything. Okay. Also, it is omnipresent. Just a little while back, I spoke that cockroaches are found throughout the world, everywhere you go. Also, we see that they are nocturnal. What is the meaning of nocturnal? Whenever I say that an animal is nocturnal, this means that this animal is active only during the night time, not during the daytime. During the daytime, it is inactive and it prefers to rest in those dark areas. Okay. Also, if you go behind a cockroach, do you all know that cockroaches have wings? You do know, right? But if you go behind the cockroach and when it gets scared, what does it do? Do you see that cockroach flying? No, you will see that cockroach running. So, its mode of adaptation means it's on a general note, the cockroach prefers to run. So, it's having running legs, hence it is called as cursorial. Cursorial means that it is going to be running all the time. So, these are the 4 words I'd like you to remember. Which are they? First, omnivorous. Second, omnipresent. Third, nocturnal. And fourth, cursorial. Okay. Alright. Next, talking about the common Indian species. Well, the first common Indian species which we just spoke about right now, one name you already know, it's called as Periplaneta Americana. Another one is called as Blatta orientalis. Sometimes they might ask you what is the scientific name of an oriental cockroach, and that would be Blatta orientalis, MCQ. Okay, so Blatta orientalis, oriental cockroach, can come in your NEET exam. So, where exactly has this word cockroach derived from? From the Spanish name called as cucaracha. And who was it that termed the term of cockroach? It was the name was given by Burmester in the year 1838. Okay, this is an important term over here, Burmester. Okay, for your MCQs. Okay, all right. So remember the two scientific names of cockroach. One, Periplaneta Americana. Second, Blatta orientalis. Okay, all right. So let's continue ahead. We see that the cockroach is, it has got a tough exoskeleton around it. Now, the name of that exoskeleton, it is called as chitin. Now, you will not call this as chitin, okay? This is pronounced as chitin. Don't even dare to try calling it as chitin, okay? It's chitin. Now, what is chitin? Chitin is basically a polysaccharide, okay? What is the function of chitin? Chitin is behaving, it is the what the exoskeleton is made up of. And if its exoskeleton is made up of chitin, then this means that the chitin is going to behave like the whole protection of the cockroach. It is going to give protection to that cockroach, okay? So it's a whole chitinous layer. I'd like you to remember one thing. From today till the end of our last lecture for cockroach, remember one thing. If I am telling you that anything in the body of the cockroach is hard, is doing protection, is giving support, and it is tough, then it is going to be absolutely made up of chitin, whether it is on the external surface, that is the exoskeleton, or even if it is a structure inside the body of the cockroach. If it is doing the work of protection and if it is hard, then understand that it will always be made up of chitin, that is by default, okay? So the complete body, the exoskeleton is covered by a chitinous cuticle. So the outermost part of that cockroach is going to be labeled as a cuticle. What is the cuticle made up of? It is made up of a layer called as chitin. Okay. Now let's see the systematic positioning of the cockroach kingdom: Animalia, phylum Arthropods, class Insecta, genus Periplaneta, and species is Americana. Now the reasons. Why are these reasons there? Why are the that kind of positioning being done? First of all, kingdom Animalia, because it is an animal with it is a multicellular animal. Phylum Arthropoda, because they have joint legs. Class Insecta, because they have 2 pairs of wings and 3 pairs of walking legs. Okay. Periplaneta, because their wings are very straight and plain. Okay. And Americana, because its origin was there, found in Mexico, USA. Okay. Now, coming back to the exoskeleton part. Remember, I told you that the outermost part of the cockroach is made up of a cuticle, and that cuticle is nothing but chitin. Now, where does the cuticle come from? Is the cockroach born with that cuticle? No. The cuticle forms later on, and that cuticle is being secreted by some layer. Which layer is secreting the cuticle? It is secreted by the underlying layer of the hypodermis. So, cells of hypodermis are going to be secreting that cuticle, which is going to be made up of chitin. Now, this is coated externally, okay, by a thin layer of wax, which makes that whole cockroach to be impermeable to water. And that's why even if a cockroach is in rain or fallen in water somewhere, you don't see the cockroach getting wet, do you? Also, in this layer, there are cells which are called as oonocytes, and it is these cells, oonocytes, remember the name of this, oonocytes, okay, cell. So, it is these cells, the oonocytes, which are responsible or which are believed to be responsible for secretion of this waxy layer to maintain that impermeability from water, okay. We also see that the cuticle that's there, it is going to protect the body. It's going to provide it with rigidity, and also it allows the attachment of muscles of that cockroach. So wherever you have this exoskeleton of chitin, chitin will behave as a place where the muscles can get attached. Similarly, like how we have bones in our body, the skeletal system is meant actually for attachment of our muscles. So the cockroaches don't have an endoskeleton. They have only an exoskeleton. So naturally the muscles will be attached to that exoskeleton, which is over here the cuticle made up of chitin. Okay. Now we also see that the cuticle consists of small plates or sclerites. Okay. So basically what we see is the whole exoskeleton has an upper layer. it has a lower layer too. We will label those ahead in a couple of minutes. We will label it. The exoskeleton of the upper layer, exoskeleton of the lower layer. Upper layer will be called as the dorsal part, lower layer will be called as the ventral part. Now, the dorsal part and the ventral part, both of them are made up of the cuticle. But it's not that the dorsal and ventral parts are separate. The dorsal and ventral parts are joined too. Who are joining the dorsal and ventral parts? On the sides, there are membranes, and those membranes are called as arthrodial membranes. Okay, those membranes are known as arthrodial membranes. Well, now let us see, if I am talking about the dorsal part of the cockroach, the top part, okay, let us see what all features are seen on the external surface of this cockroach. First of all, the body divisions are quite obviously seen. You can see a head, a thorax, and an abdomen too. You can see the antenna, the wings, the anal cerci. Do you see that over here? This part over here, anal circus. What is the function of this? Let's say it's night time and you feel like going and having a glass of water. Okay, so you don't want to wake anyone up. So you tiptoe yourself all the way from your bedroom to the kitchen to have yourself a glass of water. You don't want to wake anyone else, so you're not only tiptoeing, but you also do not switch on the lights. But as soon as you enter into the kitchen, you do turn on the lights. And when you turn on the lights, oh no, for your shock, there are cockroaches running all over the place. But those cockroaches are running as if they were already knowing that you are coming, right? It's as if they already know that some sort of danger is coming and they're already started running from it. How did they sense that? You are tiptoeing and neither have you turned on the lights. So, this apparatus that you're seeing over here, which I've labeled as the anal circus, this anal circus has the ability that it can sense or detect ground vibrations, and that's the reason why even if the cockroach cannot see you coming, still an insect which is at a ground level can absolutely feel that someone is coming. Okay, so the ground vibrations lets the cockroach know that there is someone coming. Alright, can we continue ahead? We can also see that there are legs, and remember it is an arthropod. So the legs over here are going to be joint legs. Okay, also flip that cockroach over and now we are able to see the ventral view. Okay, well, when we see the antenna, I hope the girls are okay looking at this. Okay, otherwise in the classroom it starts closing your eyes and no ma'am. So, but look at this. Okay, so when you see the ventral view of the cockroach, you see that there are antenna present, there's the head there, these walking legs can be seen, the abdominal part can be seen, and you can see this part here which I told you was the anal circus. Okay, now we see that the cockroaches are reddish brown in color. The length of them 3 to 5 centimeters in length, 1.5 to 2 centimeters in breadth. They are elongated, they are dorso-ventrally flattened, and they are having bilateral symmetry. Okay, understand one thing, that the cockroach's inside part, the body cavity, is completely called as a hemocoel. The cockroaches are arthropods, and arthropods have open circulatory systems. So here the body cavity is going to be called as hemocoel, whereas the body fluid inside is going to be called as hemolymph, because that hemolymph is white in color. So because it's white in color and it's a circulating fluid, we will call it as hemolymph. Okay, alright. Now remember I told you that the cockroach is covered by chitin on the dorsal surface also, on the ventral surface also, and that too they're in the form of plates. So now let's go ahead and let us label that which are those plates over there. Okay, so talking about the exoskeleton, first of all, it is a hard, waxy, waterproof exoskeleton. Remember that a waxy layer is secreted, and it is made up of a polysaccharide which we know it is called as chitin. Okay, now talking about the chitin, each of these segment is divided into 4 plates. Okay, so whether we're talking about the head, the thorax, or the abdomen, all of these parts are going to be divided into 4 plates. The upper part, the dorsal part, is going to be called as dorsal tergum. Now, this is something which is very, very, very important. Okay, this is very important. These terms which I'm going to label now can be asked in any what way when you talk about your MCQs. An MCQ can come, which is the tergum part, which is the sternum part. So now you need to know that when the word tergum comes, tergum means you're talking about the exoskeleton. But which part of the exoskeleton? The dorsal part. So here we see that the dorsal part, look at this part here, if they've considered the abdominal segment here. And on a cross section, you can see that this is the top layer. You can also see that this is the bottom layer and this is the part in the sides. Okay, the part in the sides is the part which we're going to be calling as the arthrodial. They're called as the arthrodial membranes. Okay, now talking about the dorsal and ventral parts. The dorsal part is called as the dorsal tergum. Okay, dorsal tergum. You need to remember this word. This chapter is going to be only about terminologies. So, the dorsal part of the chitin, okay, what is chitin? Chitin is the exoskeleton. The dorsal part of the chitin is called as dorsal tergum. That very same part, but now when it is in the ventral region, you're going to be calling it as ventral sternum. So, there is a dorsal tergum and then you have a ventral sternum, okay. Then, on the sides, you've got two lateral pleurons, okay. On the sides, there are two lateral pleurons, alright. So, you have a dorsal tergum, you have a ventral sternum and then you have two lateral pleurons, okay. Now, the body divisions, we're going to study them one after the other. We're going to be beginning with the head region. Then we will continue into the thorax and finally we learn about the abdomen. Now, I'd like to tell you that the head, okay, and the thorax are at right angles to each other. So, there is a 90-degree angle between the head and the thorax. That is the region exactly where you will have the neck of the cockroach, and the neck of the cockroach can be called as its cervicum, okay. So, when they ask you in an MCQ, okay, what is the MCQ come as? What is the degree angle between the head and the thorax of the cockroach? It is 90 degrees, okay. Whether they say 90 degrees, they say perpendicular, don't get confused. So, the angle degree between the head and thorax is 90 degrees, okay. Now, when we talk about the head of the cockroach, it is ovate and it is pear shaped, okay. Can you see it is like an inverted pear, okay. This is the head of the cockroach, like an inverted pear. Then, we can see that it is found to be at right angles like we just said, and not only is it at right angles, but it is also going to have a jaw. When we talk about ourselves, where is our jaw and how is our mouth opening? Our mouth opens right in the front and we open and close like this, don't we? Right in the front, open and close. How do the cockroaches eat? How do the cockroaches open their mouth? Goes downwards, and when they are going downwards, their mouth opens in this way, okay, but below like this. So that's why, because they have a downward located jaw, you may call that as a hypognathous condition. We just completed the chapter of kingdom Animalia. Over there I taught you what is the meaning of gnatha. Gnatha means jaw, and if I say hypo, then hypo means below. So this is a condition which is found to be below the jaw, hypognathous condition, okay. Now in the head, we see that the broader end is the end which is found upwards and the narrow end is the end which is found downwards, okay. Now, talking about the head of the cockroach, okay, this is an important term. Remember I told you that each of the segments, the head, the thorax and the abdomen are made up of plates, and those plates are going to be called as sclerites, right? So, even the head of the cockroach is made up of plates, and those plates are actually going to come together and they will be fusing together. So, the head of the cockroach is actually made up of 6 fused sclerites, and remember those plates, those sclerites are the exoskeleton of the cockroach. It is doing the work of protection, it is doing the work of support, hence it is going to be made up of only and only chitin. So, external segmentation is absent, but it is made up of 6 fused chitinous sclerites. Okay, remember this word. The head is made up of 6 fused chitinous sclerites. Okay, and that is the hardened body part, and it forms the head capsule. Okay, now let's see those 6 fused chitinous sclerites. Let us see the names of those. Okay, this over here is an image. This is the head of the cockroach. Okay, can you see how the sclerites have been numbered? 1, 2, 1 and 2. Okay, then this is the third one, 4 and 5, and finally the light blue part over here, that is the 6th one. So what are the other parts? Now this is done. This one is done, these two are done, and these two are done. This what you see here, these are the eyes of the cockroach. These red parts that you're seeing here, those are the mouth of the cockroach. Okay, so whatever is left is actually the sclerites which are coming together and forming the head. Now let's go ahead and let's label these sclerites. So how many sclerites were there? There were 6 sclerites, and remember they are fused together. So the sclerites, or you can call these as segments over there. Okay, the first ones, they are the vertex. Okay, 1 and 2, they are coming together, they are forming the epicranial plates. Then the third part is called as the frons. Then this next part over here, these are the cheek parts over here, and they are called as the gena. And then finally you have the clypeus. Okay, so these, the vertex, the frons, the clypeus and the gena are the segments which are coming together and making the head capsule of the cockroach. Now this over here that you're seeing, okay, which is present as a joining part between these vertex, okay, the epicranial parts, epicranial plates, the part which is joining it, that part is called as the epicranial suture. Just like we also have sutures in our bones of the skull, even the cockroach, these two bones over here, or these two sclerites over here, sorry, are joined together by a suture, and that suture is going to be called as the epicranial suture. Okay, now look at this part here. This is a diagram that is there in the textbook. At the back, look at the back side now. Okay, we're done with the front side. Now let's concentrate on the back side. At the back of the head, there is a large opening. Can you see this opening over here? A very large opening, and that opening over there is called as the occipital foramen. Okay, occipital, because it is in the occipit part, the lower part of the skull, and it is a hole, it is an opening, hence it is called as a occipital foramen. Okay, now also we see that this occipital foramen is bordered by a sclerite, and that sclerite over here is called as the occiput. Okay, so look over here, this whole part that you're seeing here, this region over here is called as the occiput. Okay, then we also see the occipital foramen. We're talking about this hole over here. It is forming a passage in order for, so this means that there are structures which are going to begin inside the head region, and they have to pass from the head region into the thorax and the abdomen. So they have to come out of the head region. They have to come out, and for coming out, there has to be an opening. That opening is called as the occipital foramen. But what are the structures coming out of the occipital foramen? They would be the esophagus, the aorta, the nerve cord, and the tracheae. Okay, now we see that when we're talking only about the head of the cockroach, well, head of the cockroach is actually divided into 4 parts. Okay, which are those 4 parts? Let's see one after the other. First, it starts with the compound eyes. Second, it's going to continue with the antennae. Third are these small structures which you're seeing here, and they are called as the fenestrae. And the last part of the head would be the mouth parts. They have very evolved mouth parts, just like us. Even they have got an upper jaw, a lower jaw, a tongue, and all those present over there. Even teeth are going to be present too. Okay, so talking about first about the compound eyes. Well, if you're enjoying this lecture, I'd just like you to take a pause and go and hit the like button, hit the share, and post a comment also. And also, I hope you've subscribed to my channel until now. Well, let's continue. Talking about the head of the cockroach, it's got compound eyes. They are paired compound eyes. Okay, this does not mean that the cockroach, when it came into existence, no, it was not born with compound eyes. when the cockroach in this earth first came into existence, just like you and I, even the cockroach had eyes which were right in front of the face. They were the simple eyes. But then what was happening? Many of the animals would come from behind and the cockroach would die. So the cockroaches actually required a broader field of vision. And in order to increase their field of vision, their eyes structures gradually began to evolve and evolve in such a way that those simple eyes that were there became gradually non-functional, and then came these eyes which were on the sides of the head, on the lateral parts of the head. And because they were on the lateral parts of the head, the field of vision of the cockroach increased to a very great extent. And because of that field of vision increasing, it would sense that something is coming from behind and it could run and save itself. So that's what the need came, that was the reason why cockroaches have gradually evolved themselves to be born with compound eyes. So they are paired, they are dark, they are kidney shaped. Their compound eyes means that they're going to be made up of several small individual units, and they're made up of large number of hexagonal facets, and those are called as ommatidia. Ommatidia are those small units which will come together and make one single eye for the cockroach. Singular form of ommatidia is called as ommatidium. This is a very important part for your MCQs, okay, MCQs, that is ommatidia, name of the individual unit of a compound eye, okay. Also we see that each ommatidia acts as a single simple eye and it forms a part of the image of the whole object, okay. So this means that if there is an object in front of the cockroach, then each ommatidia will be able to receive only one part of that object. Collectively, all the ommatidia will come together. They will receive all such small parts and they will signal it and take it to the brain so that the brain can understand that part. Okay. So we see here that all these such kinds of images that are there, they combine together in the brain and they form a complete single but a blurred mosaic image. What is a mosaic image? Mosaic image because each ommatidia, remember this word ommatidia, each ommatidium, singular, each ommatidium is going to be taking one part of that image and it's going to be putting it together, and only after putting all those small parts together, the cockroach will be able to observe that image. So isn't this just like a small kid's jigsaw puzzle? When you have the jigsaw puzzle of a small kid, each and every small part of the puzzle plays an individual role in the whole picture, doesn't it? But one thing is there, along with this increasing field of vision, the cockroach has developed a sense that the vision is actually going to be a bit blur. So although it is able to see more, but is not able to see clearly. The cockroach might be able to see that there is a person, but won't be able to tell who is that person. So the image is basically a mosaic image and a blur image. These two words, blur, mosaic, image, the description is very important for your MCQs. Image is blur but mosaic image, okay. Now in each of the compound eye, also another important part for your MCQ, each of the compound eye is made up of around 2000 to 2500 ommatidia in each eye. So putting them together, around 5000 ommatidia. Okay, these over here, these units over here, can you see the shape of them? They look like small honeycombs. So these are hexagonal shaped facets. Okay, so they are hexagonal shaped facets and they are called as ommatidia. Okay. Alright, so then that completes about the compound eye. Let's move on towards the antennae of the cockroach. Okay, so those antennae that you see do have a lot of functions. The very first function I'll tell you easily to remember, it's near the head. It's going to do the work of, before I tell you the function, let me ask you one thing. When we spoke about the parts of the head of the cockroach, we said that there were eyes, we said there are antennae. We said that there are some structure called as FENESTRAE, and then we said there are mouth parts. Did we talk anywhere about a nose? Does this mean that the cockroach cannot smell? Well, It is the antennae which are going to be behaving as olfactory receptors. Olfactory means that it is going to be allowing the sense of smell to take place over there. So antennae, they are paired, they are joined, and they are long and slender, and they are made up of single units put together. Hence they can be called as filamentous. They are present between the compound eye and the membranous pits, and they are present inside antennal sockets. So just like how we've got the tooth inside a socket, in a similar way, the antennae are present inside sockets, and those sockets are called as antennal sockets. Okay, we see here that there are tactoreceptors and there are organs of olfaction present, which is for the sense of smell. So antennae basically not only is it doing the work of olfaction, but also as the cockroach is going to be moving ahead, the cockroach needs to be touching ahead what exactly is there in front of it. Never by mistake also do you see cockroach entering into water. Why? Because before the cockroach will actually go into water, its antennae will touch the water and make it go in the reverse direction. Okay, so that was about antennae. Now talking about fenestrae. What is fenestrae? Well, fenestrae are the vestigial simple eye. Remember a little while back I told you that cockroaches were, when they came into existence, they did not have those compound eyes. They in fact had simple eyes. Okay, but later on we see that those fenestrae those simple eyes or the fenestrae have then evolved into compound eyes. So where are they exactly? Look at this cockroach, and can you see these circles that I've just done over here? Those were the exact placements of the previous simple eye. So basically the fenestrae have remained there, just that now they are just non-functional. And since they are non-functional, may I call these as vestigial or non-functional simple eyes. So these are a pair of whitish spots. They are present at the base of the antennae, and they are vestigial or they are non-functional simple eyes. Okay. Now talking about the mouth parts of a cockroach, they are of the chewing and the biting type. Okay, this is the part which is very important. The mouth parts, okay, how are they, which are they, and what are the functions of each and every part of the mouth. This is a very important part. We're going to be learning this now. When we talk about the mouth parts, they are chewing and they are biting. If they are chewing and biting, means that they're going to be having teeth. Okay, also they are of a mandibulate type. Let's see what that is all about. They are made up of movable and segmented appendages, and it is going to be assisting in chewing and in taking food in also. Alright. Now look at this here. This is the exact diagram which is given in our NCERT textbook for our NEET exam, and many a times children, right, and even seen in this year's NEET paper, what is seen is that directly things have been taken from the NCERT textbook, directly statements have been taken from the NCERT textbook, it's been made into an MCQ and it has been asked. So what we need to do is we need to read each and every line of that MCQ, of that textbook, on and on again, and underline all the important parts. Also, I'll give you a very nice idea of how exactly we're going to approach the NCERT textbook, how exactly you know that sometimes when the words are boring, when the sentences don't make sense, you have a tendency to just skip through some of the sentences. And what if they make an MCQ right out of that? We don't want to lose that, do we? So come to us at YuppMaster, and in our app we'll give you small courses, small sessions on how to make sure that you're not skipping any word from your NCERT. Okay, no matter how it may be, how boring it may be, no matter how much you right now may not understand when you read it, but come to us and I'll show you an exactly and a simple way how to get your textbook thorough. Okay, so talking back about the mouth parts of the cockroach, we have that there is an upper lip which is called as labrum. We have a lower lip which is called as the labium. So there is labrum and then there is labium. Okay, upper lip and lower lip. Then on the sides there is something called as a mandible. Not a true lip, but it is a true jaw. So upper part, it is called as a mandible. Then the lower part is called as the maxilla, which is also known as the additional jaw of the cockroach. And in the center, do you see this part here? That part is the tongue of the cockroach, or it can also be given the name of hypopharynx. So Basically, when we talk about the mouth parts of a cockroach, there is an upper lip called as labrum, there is a lower lip called as labium, there is a mandible known as true jaw, maxilla called as additional jaw, and in the middle there is a tongue which is called as the hypopharynx. Okay. So now coming to the different parts, their structures and what are their basic functions. Okay. So we begin with the first part, which is the labrum. The labrum is the upper lip. Okay. It is a vertical rectangle plate. It's connected with the clypeus. Clypeus was one of those facial muscles. Okay. Function basically, it is going to be holding the food during feeding. Okay. Understand one thing. When we talk about that the cockroach has got an upper lip and a lower lip, okay, and it's got the jaws in between, okay. So let's see over here, here's the diagram, okay. So like us, what is our mouth structure? How is it situated? First of all, we've got upper lip and lower lip. Just behind our upper lip and lower lip, we have our jaws. There is basically no space between our lips and our jaws. Are there any spaces? No. But when we talk about the cockroach, okay, first of all, its mouth is not opening in the front. Its mouth is opening downwards. And when the mouth opens downwards, the upper lip and lower lip open. But then, when these structures open, the jaws are placed slightly behind. So basically, we see that there is a gap, and that gap is present between the lips and the teeth. So that means the lips and the jaws. And that gap that you're going to be seeing is called as the preoral cavity. Okay. So anything inside the teeth, anything inside the jaws is called as the oral cavity. But between the lips and the jaws, that part is called as the preoral cavity. Why is the preoral cavity there? Preoral cavity is just so that the cockroach can hold on to its food. And these lips which are there, the lips are basically meant to prevent the falling of those food. The food particles will not fall down if the lips are present. Okay. So we see here that this labrum structure that's there, okay, this is that labrum we're talking about, the upper lip. This is the lower lip. Now, when the cockroach opens its mouth and it wants to chew, once the food has entered inside and it wants to chew, then at that time, the teeth are going to be grinding. When we talk about our chewing process, we chew in this manner, right? Up and down, up and down. Cockroaches don't chew up and down. When the cockroaches chew, they actually are going to be chewing in a horizontal way like this. When they are chewing in this way, that is what is going to cause the crushing and grinding of the food at that level. Okay. So cockroaches, when they're chewing in a horizontal manner. Alright. So we see here that the labrum, we're talking about this part right here. Okay, let me just highlight that for you. This labrum region which we're talking about, this is a vertical rectangle plate. It is connected with the clypeus and it forms the anterior wall of the preoral cavity. Remember the preoral cavity? It is the cavity present between the lips and the jaws. In this diagram, since this is a two-dimensional diagram, you may be seeing as if everything is on one plane only. But no, the lips are in the front and the jaws are behind. Between those two, there is a cavity and that cavity is going to be called as the preoral cavity. Okay. It is also called as the upper lip, and what is the main function of this labrum? It does the work of holding on to the food while feeding. Okay. Also one thing, the preoral cavity, let's say the cockroach is sitting and eating, and let's say somebody comes in the room. What is the cockroach going to do? It has to leave everything and run. So this is where that preoral cavity will help it, that it doesn't have to leave all the food, but some part of the food will stay retained with it for it to eat. Also, the labrum is a part where they have the chemoreceptors present in order for the cockroach to be sensing that whatever is in front of it can be edible or not. So these are all the functions seen of the labrum. Next, when we talk about the lower lip, and that is called as the labium. Okay, labium is the lower lip. It is also, children, it's also called as the second maxillae. Now, I'd like you to understand why is it called as second maxillae. For this, look at this diagram again. I'd like you to just pay attention on the structures of this part here. Look at this region over here. This over here, what you're seeing, is called as the maxilla. Okay, one on this side, alright, and one on this side. This here what you're seeing is the maxilla. Now, over here, these two maxillas, they are separated. One is on the left side and one is on the right side. But in your imagination, if you take both of them and if you put them together, then can I say that it forms a structure which may look just like this? So, just physically, I am only talking about structurally, only physically, if you put both of these together, it forms a structure which looks like the labium. And that is the very reason why the labium is also called as the second maxillae, only according to structure, not according to its function. Okay, so that is the reason why labium can be called as second maxillae. And what is exactly that labium is doing? It's going to be covering the mouth from below. As I told you, it's the lower lip. Lower part means the ventral part. So labium covers the mouth ventrally. Okay, what's the function? The labium function basically is that it is going to prevent the loss of food falling from the mandibles while that cockroach is chewing. So basically when the cockroach is eating, it's not having hands like you and me. So it will naturally have a tendency that while eating, the food will fall down. So to prevent the food from falling down, the upper lip and lower lip are present. And the lower lip exactly, more importantly, is going to play an important role in preventing the food from falling. Okay. Also we say it has a sensory function of detecting different smell and different tastes for the cockroach. Okay. Now after the upper lip and the lower lip are done, we now come to the jaws. Now we have an upper jaw here and we have a lower jaw too. And I told you that the cockroaches have a biting and chewing type, right, of mouth parts. So if there are biting and chewing types of mouth parts, this means that there have to be teeth present. And those teeth which are present in on the mandibles. Okay, so these mandibles are basically true jaws. They are present below the labrum. They are paired. They are, what is labrum? Labrum means that this was the upper lip. Okay, so here labrum, upper lip. Okay, so they are paired, they are hard, and I told you anything hard in a cockroach is going to be made up of chitin. So here even the mandibles, because they have to be hard, they will also be made up of chitin. Okay, they have serrate margins. What are serrate margins? Like how, you know, when you draw a leaf, you don't draw it straight. Sometimes leaves are drawn with serrate margins. Okay, so those serrate margins, that's basically how these are also. You can see how the margins are serrate, not a straight margin. Okay, they have teeth as well. And let's see the functions. The functions over here would be cutting and crushing the food. Okay, next talking about the maxillae. Maxillae are called as the accessory jaws. Behind the they are located behind the mandibles on either sides, and there are many jointed structures. Okay, when we see the functions of the maxillae, their major function is going to be of tearing the food. Also, they bear chemoreceptors which have a function in smell and in taste also. Remember, chemoreceptor means that they have chemical receptors for smell and for taste as well. Okay, now we talk about the first maxillae. There is a pair of first maxillae which is situated on both the sides of the mouth, that too behind the mandibles. Okay, each of the mandible consists of 3 parts, and which are those? First is called as the protopodite, second is called as the endopodite, and third is called as the exopodite. Okay, next when we talk about the second maxillae, it lies behind the first pair, and they fuse to form a broad plate which we are calling like the lower lip, that is the labia. And the lower lip is going to be consisting of upper segmentum, the middle mentum, and the lower prementum. Alright, now the last part of the mouth parts, we talk about the hypopharynx, or you can also call it as the lingua, or you may also call it as the tongue for the cockroach. Okay, now this is exactly the placement of that hypopharynx. It is long, it is medially placed, and it is an unsegmented process. Okay, now this was all about until now we've learnt about the head of the cockroach. Okay, we've done what are the different parts that we learnt about the cockroach. We learnt about the eyes, we learnt about the antennae, we learned about the fenestrae, and also about the mouth parts too. Okay, so basically this was a whole insight about only the external morphology of the head of the cockroach. One of the most important parts where several MCQs we just pointed out that this could be an MCQ, that could be an MCQ. Okay, so pay attention. You can make notes out of this. Go back and watch the lectures. Also, I'd like you to know that on our YuppMaster app, you can go ahead, and today's lecture comes with a practice session. A DPP is there of around 15 to 20 questions from this lecture. Go ahead and try to solve those questions, and remember one thing, when you solve the DPPs, each and every question, if you're solving it, definitely one of those questions are going to be coming for your NEET exam. So understand that once those questions are solved, all your concepts about cockroach are definitely clear, and that will make sure that your 4 marks from this chapter are completely secure. One question always comes from this chapter of cockroach. Alright. So until our next lecture, we'll be continuing with the external morphology and the locomotion part of the cockroach. You all stay home, you stay safe, and take care, and see you in our next lecture. That will be day after tomorrow, right here at the same place. Alright. Till then, take care and bye-bye.